V1. Rotate.
Schönen guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren, and welcome back to another Flight Sim 008 video with Fly UK. Today we're in Stansted, and we'll be operating Flight 2022 with services to Frankfurt Hahn. We'll be flying the Boeing 737-700, which Fly UK operates under its low-cost Fly 2 division. Expected flight time is just over an hour, and it's currently late afternoon this somewhat chilly autumn day. So as the catering guys load up the elephant grade peanuts, let's have a look at the charts and the weather. So over in the flight dispatch page, we are FL 2022, radio call sign Skyways 2022. We are on VATSIM. London Control North is online. Unfortunately, we're not in their territory, and we won't be going there. We'll see if something springs up along the way. For now, we'll be on Unicom. It is a low-cost flight, European. We'll be operating the Boeing 737-700. Estimated duration is an hour and 10 minutes in the air. It's 333 nautical miles. We'll have a quick look at the charts and the weather. The weather at Stansted, it's currently cloudy, temperature's 10. The surface winds are out of the north-northeast at 10 knots, 020. The pressure is 1024 hectopascals, a good visibility over 10 statute miles. That in mind, we will look over at our airport overview chart. We have a single runway here at London Stansted. It's a 0422. The winds being out of the northeast, we will be departing off of runway 04. We're at apron B. Fly UK stand allocation is 22, so going over here to the docking and parking chart, we are at stand 22. We'll be pushing back, crossing on Bravo, down hotel, all the way to the end, 04. Our departure SID is to Detling. That is our first waypoint in the flight plan. So off of runway 4, it's a right-hand turn, tracking the Detling radial 335 outbound or 155 inbound over to Detling. We have a hard altitude restriction of 5,000 over Detling. Our transition altitude is 6,000. Go back to the map quickly because I forgot it. Over the map, we are at London Stansted. Here is Detling, crossing the English Channel into Belgium, crossing Belgium, and then our descent over into Frankfurt Hahn. So welcome to the flight deck of the 737-700NG. We'll look over at our overhead panel. We'll get the air conditioning out of the way. First thing we can do is spool up the IRSs and set them to nav so that they can align. We will arm the emergency exits. We're done fueling, so we can turn on the seatbelt sign, turn all of the hydraulics off. Window heat can stay off for now. Turn the packs to auto, and the isolation valve to auto. Turn off the engine bleeds for now. We can set up our cruise altitude, which is 3350, and our landing altitude, which is 1650. So pressurization is set. Coming down here to the main flight displays, currently all black. We can go ahead and leave this one here on the FS Actions. We will turn this one over here to FMC. We will supply the aircraft with a initial coordinates so that we can get our IRSs aligned. There they go. Route. We have a company route. It is 2022, and I will be putting up the route here at the bottom of the screen. Plug that in. Flight number is UKV 2022, like so. And we will be departing off runway 4. We'll go ahead and zoom out a little bit on the old ND, bring up the plan page, go through the legs. Detling, Dover, Conan, 30, blah blah blah, SPI, no discontinuities. Our last waypoint is Ropov. We'll get into the arrival a little bit later on in the flight. Bring that back to the nav page, like so. And go ahead and plug in our departure which is the Detling 1 Sierra, like so. And all of that checks out. Route, activate, enter. That becomes pink. So off of runway 4, go ahead and put in 040. I'll look up the exact runway heading in a bit. What else? We have an altitude restriction of 5,000, so we'll go ahead and put that in the MCP. Go ahead and go to the perf init. Zero fuel weight, we will let the aircraft decide that. We have 4 tons of reserve fuel. 139 passengers today going to Frankfurt Hahn. Our cost index for the low cost is 21, and our cruise altitude 350. Our transition is 6,000, like so. Execute that. N1 limit, well, we don't need full power. It's a long runway. We're not very heavily loaded. Go ahead and take the 20 kd rate, so 20,000 pounds of thrust. Flaps, it'll be flaps 5, standard departure, center of gravity 21.1. Runway wind was 0 to 0, and our runway slope is 0. Reduction height is 1500. We'll go ahead and set the acceleration height to 3000, like so. Noise 1 departure. I believe that is us set up, so we can. Our V2 speed is 132. Set that in the MCP, like so. Turn on the flight directors. My side being the master with that little green master indication light. Takeoff trim is going to be 6.14. We'll get that set up a little bit later. We can bring the auto brakes to RTO. We will go ahead and tune in Unicom for now. As I said, London North is on, but unfortunately we're not in that sector. So Unicom it is for us. Radios are set. Go ahead and turn that on. We will squawk 2000 once applicable. I will take terrain on the first officer side, like so. I will take the weather in a second online. We will turn traffic on. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Like so. And we can turn on our VORs, like so. So pressure, as I said, was 1024. Go ahead and put that, we can actually set it to hectopascals, not inches of mercury. 1024, there we go, that is set. Can clear the master caution for now. We will get the passengers boarded up, and I'll go through the checklist in a second, and we'll get on our way to Frankfurt. So, checklist, parking brake, we can go ahead and set that, like so. Door 1 is open, the gangway or jetway is connected, battery is on and covered, the DC is over to BAT, AC standby power, we can go ahead and put that standby power like so. Hydraulic pumps are all off, fuel pumps are all off, interior lights are as required. Cabin utility power checked on, yes they have galley power, they can start making low-cost coffee. IFE passenger seat power, so that is the in-flight entertainment. Well, we don't have in-flight entertainment on every seat in this aircraft because it's a low-cost flight. We have those pop-up or pop-down video players in this aircraft, and on my flights we only play one movie, and it is Final Destination. Let's go ahead and start the APU, so we'll put on one of the fuel pumps. Go ahead and fire that up. We'll get ourselves, we'll wean ourselves off of ground connections so that we can get this show on the road. The passengers are currently boarding, all 139 of them, and we're pretty much, as soon as they're done, we're pretty much set to go. Just waiting for that APU to start up. Low pressure, low oil pressure in the APU, that's fine, still spooling up. We'll have peak EGT, and then when that settles back down, transfer the buses over to the APU buses, and we'll get some of that bleed air over to the passengers so they can put those little vents on. There we go, coming back down, stabilizing, and we have APU power. So let's go ahead and transfer the buses over to the APU. You can see the bleed air starting to rise as well, so that's good. Get those ground connections sorted, and we'll request our pushback.
And ground to cockpit, we're ready for pushback.
So pushback procedure, we will get the anti-call light on.
Locking gear.
We will bring up our engine status page. We're looking for 25% N2 before we introduce the fuel. We'll get to that in a second. QNH is set. We'll go ahead and start the clock once we release the parking brake.
Departure check completed, Captain. Bypass pin inserted. And release parking brake, sir.
Alright, start the clock. Release the parking brake.
Commencing the push, Captain. Start
go.
engines at your discretion.
I like to wait a little bit before we start the engines here, just to get make sure that we're clear of all of the ground equipment. Make sure that we're not going to be blasting anything behind us. So what we can do in the meantime is we can turn the packs off. We'll turn the window heats on. We'll leave the probe heats off for now so that we don't burn the ground crew in case they happen to accidentally touch those. The yaw damper just came on. The packs are now off, so all of the bleed air is going towards the engines. Commencing our pushback, and I think it is safe to say we can start number 2. So engines switch goes to ground. We're looking for an N2 rise, which is the smaller blades inside the engine. N1 is now rising as well. Waiting for 25%, and then we can introduce the fuel. So that is a good start on number 2. We'll go ahead and start number 1. Put that to ground, wait for 25%, and then introduce the fuel. That is starter cutout on both engines. We have 2 good starts. Let's go ahead and pressurize the hydraulics. Turn on the pitot-static heats. We can go ahead and transfer the power over to the engine buses. Turn the packs back on in a second. We'll just go ahead and disconnect from APU bleed, and we will turn on the engine bleeds. Wait for that pressure in the ducts to rise a little bit. And then go ahead and give the passengers a little bit of air. So, engine start switches go to continuous. We are off the APU, so that can go off. Everything on the overhead looks set. We can get rid of the engine page, go to the status page, and we will do our flight control check in just 1 second. First things first, we will set the trim. 6.14. So this mark over right about here is 5. We'll just go past that a little bit, like so. So trim is set. We have our V-speeds. 122, 127 is V-rotate, and 132 is V2. Go ahead and do our flight control check. Flight control check is complete. Get rid of the status page. We'll arm VNav, we'll arm LNav. Leave the auto throttle off for now. Turn on the taxi light. I don't really need the turn off lights. Sometimes it's good practice to turn them on just out of force of habit. I don't require them today. It's fine. It's nice out, bright, sunny. Don't have a problem with anybody seeing us. Let's get this underway. We'll set the flaps on the taxi out. I haven't forgotten about that. Nobody around here yet. Oh, we have a Ryanair. So we will follow the Ryanair out to runway 4. Oh, they sure are in a hurry. I say that, the speed starts getting away from me. So, it's a right turn here, and then a left onto Hotel. Like so. Follow the yellow line. There goes the Ryanair. It's always nice to have a little bit of traffic around, even though no ATC to control us. We'll give them a nice wide berth on the departure, so we'll wait a couple of minutes. So, coming up to runway 4 at Kilo, which is the intersection I've elected to depart from. We will go ahead and turn our transponder on, like so. We will try not to overshoot this turn here. There we go. We'll hold short for a second, announce our intentions, give the Ryanair a little bit of time to get a little further out. A little bit of lag in the turn. And we will go ahead with the runway entry procedure. So nobody on final. Ryanair was on TCAS for just a second there, and then popped off. Probably get him again as we align. We'll turn the weather radar on, and we will set it for precipitation and turbulence. I don't think we'll have to stop here at the end. I think we can just roll onto the runway. Let's have a quick look at the ND. Nobody on final, so we'll go ahead and line up. Shiny switches forward, strobe lights on, gen switches are already on continuous, runway turn-off lights can come on. We'll arm the auto throttle, start the clock. So on departure, what we are looking for is, well, our V speeds. So 132 is our V2 speed, our rotate speed is 127. We're looking for 40% N1 on the engines as we spool up, and then we will hit the toga switch, which is on the, you can't really see it there, it's hidden. Actually, it's that little black button right there. I have one mapped to my control column. So that's how we will be doing that. That is toga power, and the engines will spool up to give us the 20k D rate on the departure. Climb out, it'll be a right-hand turn after departure, and then tracking the Detling VOR, and then on course, up to 5,000 initially. Without further ado, 40% N1, right about there. And stable, toga. Let's go. There's 80 knots. 100 knots.
V1. Rotate. V2.
Pull up slowly. There we go. Pitch up, positive rate, gear up. Here comes that right turn. Be seeing the thrust reduction. There we go. It's kicking in now. We'll see the speed bug up in just a second as we approach our acceleration height. Coming through the right turn now. Fall colors of Stansted. Switch up just a little bit more. There's our bug up, there's our acceleration height, 3000 AGL. Right on course, right on path. I'll start bringing up the flaps in just a second. I only have 2 hands and I'm only 1 person in the flight deck, so we will get the gear off as soon as we put the autopilot in. I'll continue with the after departure checklist. There we go. I have it a little bit pitched further up so that we have a little bit more time before it starts accelerating. I'll whack on the autopilot now, like so. Engage VNAV, and gear can come off, and the auto brakes can go off. We can retract the under aircraft shiny switches and start bringing up the flaps. So having a quick look at the ND, not too much in the ways of traffic. Keeping an eye out on that target over there. Looks like our paths are not converging. We'll go ahead and bring up the, oh, not that one. We want the waypoints. Come on, you can do it. There we go. The altitude restrictions, so the constraints on every single one of our waypoints. Detling 5,000. I think we're going to bug up before that. It's a little bit choppy down here. I don't like to stay this low. So we'll get our climb going in just a second here. As the aircraft overcorrects for that turn. We're at 250 knots, the speed limit. Terrain radar looks fine. Nothing really on the weather radar. Oh yeah, the engine Start switches can go back off from continuous. Don't need those anymore. Yeah, looking around at the traffic, looking at the announcements on Unicom. Doesn't look like we have any conflicts. We'll go ahead and bug up to our cruise altitude of 350. Like so. And the only other thing we have to worry about are our 10K checks, which is basically lights off and seatbelt signs, if applicable, off. So we will release the flight attendants in just a bit, climb up above these clouds, and get on our way to Frankfurt.